During a family retreat at a remote mountain resort, our own bodyguard, the man we trusted with our lives, pushed us off a cliff after discovering we knew too much about a dangerous scheme involving our son. We fell into the darkness, but somehow we survived. As the world believed we were dead, my husband whispered those chilling words, "Pretend we're dead." That's how we started our revenge, in silence, in the shadows, with every step carefully calculated. This is the story of betrayal, survival, and justice served cold. Subscribe for more intense true stories when trust becomes a weapon. My name is Victoria Ashford, and I died on October 3rd at 9:47 p.m. At least, that's what the world believes. The newspapers called it a tragic accident. Prominent businessman Marcus Ashford and wife fall to their deaths during mountain retreat. Our friends mourned. Our business partners sent flowers. Even our enemies pretended to be sad. But I'm not dead. Neither is my husband. And the man who tried to kill us? He has no idea we're coming for him. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment our perfect life began to unravel, and we learned that the person we trusted most was the one who wanted us dead. It started 3 weeks before the fall, in the marble-floored foyer of our Connecticut estate. My husband Marcus and I had just returned from a charity gala when our 16-year-old son, Dylan, came running down the grand staircase, his face pale, his hands trembling. "Mom, Dad, I need to talk to you. Now. Alone." Thomas Reed, our bodyguard of 8 years, immediately stepped forward. "Is everything all right, Dylan? Do you need—" "No." Dylan's voice cracked. "No, Thomas. Thank you. I just need my parents. Family stuff." Thomas nodded professionally. That same calm, protective demeanor he'd always had. "Of course. I'll be in the security office if you need me." I watched him walk away, his broad shoulders relaxed, his step measured and confident. Thomas had been with us since Dylan was 8. He'd driven my son to school, taught him to box, been there for every birthday, every milestone. He was more than an employee. He was family, or so I thought. Dylan pulled us into Marcus's study and locked the door. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely turn the key. "Dylan, sweetheart, what's wrong?" I reached for him, but he stepped back. "I found something. In Thomas's room." Marcus frowned. "Son, you know you're not supposed to go into the staff quarters without—" "Dad, please, just listen." Dylan pulled out his phone, his fingers fumbling with the screen. "I was looking for my baseball glove. Thomas said he might have accidentally taken it when he was organizing the garage. So I went to his room to check, and I found this." He turned the phone toward us. On the screen was a photograph of a document, a life insurance policy, my life insurance policy, and Marcus's, each worth $20 million. "Dylan, we know about our life insurance," I said gently. "That's normal for people in our—" "Look at the beneficiary, Mom." I looked closer. My blood ran cold. The beneficiary wasn't Dylan, as it should have been. It wasn't even a family member. It was Thomas Reed. Marcus grabbed the phone, zooming in on the document. His face went from confused to shocked to furious in the span of 3 seconds. "This has to be a mistake," he said, but his voice was shaking. "Victoria, when did we last review our insurance policies?" 2 years ago, I whispered, "when we updated our will. But Marcus, we specifically designated Dylan as the primary beneficiary. I remember signing the papers." "So do I." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Which means someone changed them." Dylan's voice was barely above a whisper. "There's more. I took pictures of everything I found. Dad, there are bank statements, offshore accounts, and—" He paused, swallowing hard. "There are emails. Thomas has been communicating with someone about the plan. They mentioned dates. They mentioned the retreat. The retreat. We'd been planning a family getaway to a remote luxury resort in the Adirondack Mountains. Just the 3 of us and Thomas, who always accompanied us on trips for security. We were supposed to leave in 2 weeks. Marcus took the phone, scrolling through the images Dylan had captured. With each swipe, his face grew darker. "Victoria," he said quietly, "look at this." It was an email from an account I didn't recognize. The message was brief. "The retreat is perfect. Remote location. Hiking accident. Make it look natural. The policies pay out double for accidental death. We split 50-50 after it clears. Clean and simple." Thomas's response, Understood. The boy too? The reply, no. He's worth more alive. We'll handle him after. My knees buckled. Marcus caught me, his arm around my waist, but I could feel him trembling too. He's planning to kill us, I breathed. Thomas is planning to murder us and make it look like an accident. Dylan's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. I should have noticed something. I should have… No. Marcus pulled our son into a tight embrace. You may have just saved our lives, but we need to be smart about this. If Thomas suspects we know… He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. For the next 2 weeks, we lived in our own home like prisoners pretending to be free. We smiled at Thomas, made small talk, acted as if nothing had changed, but every moment he was near us, my skin crawled. Every time he handed Dylan a glass of water or offered to drive us somewhere, I wanted to scream. Marcus and I discussed going to the police, but the evidence we had was complicated. The emails could be explained away. The insurance change could be called a clerical error. And Thomas had been so careful. There were no direct threats, no obvious proof of intent to harm us. If we accuse him now without concrete evidence, Marcus said one night as we lay in bed, unable to sleep, he'll just disappear. Or worse, he'll accelerate his plan. So what do we do? I asked. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. We go to the retreat. We let him think his plan is working, but we turn the tables. Marcus, that's insane. Listen to me. He took my hand. We'll have Dylan stay behind. We'll say he has exams. We'll wear hidden cameras. We'll document everything. And when Thomas makes his move, we'll have proof. Real, undeniable proof. I stared at him. You want to use ourselves as bait? I want to end this. Permanently. Because Victoria, even if we fire him, even if we run, he knows where we live. He knows our routines. He knows everything about us. The only way to be truly safe is to expose him completely. So that's what we did. We told Dylan he couldn't come on the retreat, told him it was a couple's trip, that we needed time to reconnect. He protested, of course, but Marcus and I both held firm. We set up small, nearly invisible cameras in our clothing. We had a panic button connected directly to the FBI. Marcus had called in a favor from an old friend in law enforcement, explaining just enough to get help without triggering an investigation that might alert Thomas. And then we drove to the mountains with the man who planned to kill us. Our the resort was everything the brochure promised. Luxury cabins nestled in pristine wilderness, hiking trails with breathtaking views, complete isolation from the outside world, perfect for a romantic getaway, perfect for murder. Thomas was his usual professional self, carrying our bags, checking the security of the cabin, going over the hiking routes for the next day. There's a spectacular overlook about 2 miles up the North Trail, he said, pointing to a map. The resort manager says it's the best view in the entire region. I thought we could hike there tomorrow morning. I felt Marcus stiffen beside me, but his voice remained casual. Sounds perfect, Thomas. What time should we head out? Early, 6 a.m. We'll have the trail to ourselves, and the sunrise from the overlook is supposed to be incredible. Of course he wanted us there at sunrise. Fewer witnesses. More time before anyone would notice we were missing. That night, Marcus and I lay in bed, neither of us sleeping. The overlook, I whispered. That's where he'll do it. I know. Marcus's hand found mine in the darkness. But we'll be ready. The cameras are recording. The panic button is in my jacket, and I have something else. He showed me a small canister. Pepper spray. It's not much, he said. But if he tries to push us, I'll spray him first. It'll give us a chance to… To what, Marcus? We're not fighters. Thomas is trained. He's stronger than both of us combined. I know, but we're smarter, and we have something he doesn't. What's that? We know it's coming. 6 a.m. came too fast. We dressed in our hiking gear, made small talk over coffee, and set out on the trail with Thomas leading the way. The morning was beautiful. Mist rising from the valley below, birds singing in the trees, the air crisp and clean. Under any other circumstances, it would have been perfect. But every step felt like walking toward our execution. Thomas kept up a steady stream of conversation, pointing out landmarks, making jokes, playing the role of the perfect companion. It was surreal, knowing that this man who was laughing about a funny moment from Dylan's childhood was planning to throw us off a cliff within the hour. We reached the overlook at 7:30 a.m. Thomas was right. The view was spectacular. The cliff edge dropped away sharply, at least 200 feet down to jagged rocks and a fast-moving river below. Incredible, isn't it? Thomas said, standing dangerously close to the edge. You can see for miles. Marcus and I stayed back, maintaining our distance from both Thomas and the precipice. That's when I saw it, the subtle shift in Thomas's demeanor. The friendly smile faded. His posture changed. His eyes went cold. "Mr. and Mrs. Ashford," he said, and his voice was different now. No warmth, no familiarity. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "What is it, Thomas?" Marcus's hand moved slowly toward his jacket pocket. "Did Dylan tell you what he found in my room 2 weeks ago?" The world seemed to stop. Thomas smiled, but it wasn't friendly anymore. It was the smile of a predator who'd been playing with his food. "I know he was there. I have cameras in my room, motion activated. I saw him going through my things, and I've been watching you both very carefully since then. The way you look at me, the way you flinch when I get too close, the way you insisted Dylan stay home from this trip." He took a step toward us. "You know about the insurance policies. You know about the plan. And now we have a problem." Marcus pulled out the pepper spray, but Thomas was faster. His fist connected with Marcus's jaw, and my husband went down hard. The spray canister skittered across the rock and over the edge of the cliff. I screamed and ran toward Marcus, but Thomas grabbed my arm, his grip like iron. "I didn't want it to be like this," Thomas said, and he actually sounded regretful. "I really did care about your family. But the money, $40 million, Victoria. That kind of money changes everything." He was dragging us both toward the cliff edge now. Marcus was dazed, barely conscious from the punch. I was clawing at Thomas's arm, but it was useless. The plan was for it to be quick, painless, a simple push, and you'd be gone before you even knew what happened. But now you know, and I can't have you going over that edge with the chance you might survive long enough to tell someone. He pulled out a gun. I hadn't even known he was armed. "So here's what's going to happen. You're both going to walk to the edge. You're going to jump together, holding hands, like a tragic suicide pact. The grief of losing your business, the stress. It'll all make sense. And then I'll go back to the cabin, discover your goodbye note, which I've already written, and play the role of the devastated bodyguard who couldn't save you." "Thomas, please," I started, but he pressed the gun to Marcus's temple. "Walk, now." We walked. Step by terrible step, we moved toward the edge of that cliff. I could see the rocks below, the churning water, the certainty of death. Thomas stood behind us, the gun steady in his hand. "Any last words?" he asked. "For what it's worth, I really am sorry. I have one question," Marcus said, his voice still slurred from the punch. "The person you're working with, the one you're splitting the money with, who is it?" Thomas laughed. "Does it matter? You'll be dead. Humor me. Your business partner, James Caldwell. He's the one who came to me with the idea. Apparently you were about to discover some discrepancies in the company accounts. Major discrepancies. James has been embezzling for years, and he knew you were getting close to figuring it out. So he needed you gone, and I needed money. Perfect partnership." Marcus nodded slowly. "That's what I thought. Thank you for confirming." "For what? You won't be able to tell anyone." "I won't have to." Marcus tapped his jacket. "Hidden camera. Been recording everything, and it's streaming to a secure server. The FBI has been watching this entire conversation." Thomas's face went white. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Marcus smiled despite the blood on his lip. "Why don't you check my jacket pocket?" Thomas hesitated, then reached for Marcus's jacket. That split second of distraction was all we needed. Marcus grabbed Thomas's wrist, the one holding the gun, and twisted hard. I threw myself at Thomas's legs, knocking him off balance. But Thomas was trained for combat. He recovered quickly, and what happened next was chaos. The gun fired. I don't know who it hit. Maybe no one. Thomas swung his elbow, catching Marcus in the ribs. Marcus gasped, but held on. Thomas was trying to point the gun at me, and I was grabbing his arm, and we were all struggling right there on the edge of that cliff. And then Thomas did something I didn't expect. He let go of the gun. Instead, he grabbed both Marcus and me, using our own momentum against us, and he shoved, hard. We went over the edge. For a moment, there was nothing but air and terror and the absolute certainty that we were about to die. But we didn't fall far. About 15 feet down, there was a ledge. Narrow, barely wide enough for both of us, but solid. We slammed into it hard, and pain exploded through my body. Marcus landed on top of me, knocking the wind from my lungs. Above us, I heard Thomas's voice. No, this isn't. You were supposed to fall all the way. He was looking over the edge, trying to see if we were dead. Marcus pressed his hand over my mouth, silencing the scream of pain I was about to release. His lips were at my ear, his whisper barely audible even to me. Pretend we're dead. Don't move. Don't breathe. This is our only chance. I understood immediately. If Thomas thought we were dead, he'd leave. He'd go back to the cabin, play out his script, collect his money, and we'd have time. So I went limp, closed my eyes, stopped moving entirely, despite the agony in my ribs, my arm, my back. Marcus did the same. We heard Thomas's voice again, farther away now, talking on his phone. It's done. They went over. No, I'm sure. I saw them fall. Meet me at the extraction point in 3 hours. Then silence. He was gone. Marcus and I lay on that ledge for what felt like hours but was probably only 15 minutes. Finally, when we were certain Thomas was far enough away, Marcus spoke. Victoria, are you hurt badly? I don't know. Everything hurts. You? Same. But we're alive. And now everyone thinks we're dead. He shifted carefully, looking at our surroundings. There's a slope here. We can climb down, slowly. It'll take time, but we can make it. And then what? Marcus's eyes were hard as steel. And then we stay dead. We let Thomas and James think they won. We watch them. We gather evidence. And when the time is right, we come back from the grave and we destroy them both. Dead women tell no tales until they do. It took us 4 hours to climb down from that ledge. 4 hours of agony, of bleeding hands and bruised bodies, of several moments where we nearly fell for real. But we made it. We reached the bottom of that cliff, and we survived. The next 48 hours were a blur of pain and planning. We couldn't go to a hospital. That would alert everyone that we were alive. Instead, we broke into a closed vacation cabin about 3 miles from the resort, used their first aid supplies to treat our wounds as best we could, and took stock of our situation. Marcus had 3 broken ribs, a concussion, and a badly sprained ankle. I had a fractured wrist, severe bruising across my entire body, and what I suspected was a cracked collarbone. But we were alive, and we were angry. Marcus's hidden camera had stopped transmitting when we went over the cliff. The signal couldn't reach from the ledge, but everything up until that moment had been recorded and sent to the FBI contact Marcus had arranged. We couldn't contact them directly, though. Not yet. Because if the FBI moved in now, they'd only get Thomas. James Caldwell would have plausible deniability, no proof of his involvement beyond Thomas's accusation, which a good lawyer could dismiss as the desperate lie of a caught criminal. No, we needed more. We needed James to incriminate himself, to show his hand, to prove beyond any doubt that he'd orchestrated our murders. And there was only one way to do that: let him think he'd gotten away with it. We stayed hidden in that cabin, surviving on canned food and bottled water, monitoring the news on an old radio we found. 3 days after our deaths, the story broke. Tragic accident claims lives of prominent businessman Marcus Ashford and his wife Victoria. Their bodyguard, Thomas Reed, discovered their absence during a morning hike and found evidence suggesting they'd fallen from an overlook. Rescue teams have recovered clothing and personal effects from the river below, but the bodies have not yet been found due to the dangerous currents. Authorities are treating it as a presumed double fatality. Marcus and I listened in silence. Hearing your own death announced on the radio does something to you. It's surreal, horrifying, and in a strange way, liberating. We were ghosts now, free to move unseen. Over the next week, we watched from the shadows as our deaths played out. We saw Thomas giving tearful interviews about his failure to protect us. We saw James Caldwell at our memorial service, looking appropriately somber, giving a eulogy about what a great partner and friend Marcus had been. I wanted to walk right up to that podium and expose him, but Marcus held me back. Not yet, he whispered. Let him feel safe. Let him make his move. And he did. 2 weeks after our supposed deaths, the life insurance companies began processing the policies. Thomas, as the beneficiary, stood to collect $40 million. But there was a mandatory investigation period, standard procedure for large policies where the bodies hadn't been recovered. That's when things got interesting. Marcus had given me a burner phone, and we'd been monitoring text messages. He'd hacked into James's phone remotely before we left for the retreat, something I didn't even know he could do. The messages between James and Thomas became increasingly tense. James: "The insurance investigation is taking too long. They're asking questions." Thomas: "Let them ask. The evidence is solid. We just need to be patient." James: "What about the FBI? Reed said they were streaming video." Thomas: "Reed was bluffing. If the FBI had anything, they'd have arrested me by now. The camera went over the cliff with them. We're clear." James: "And the boy? Dylan?" Thomas: "He's in boarding school now. Grieving. No threat. When the insurance pays out, we'll reevaluate." Reading that made my blood run cold. They were still planning to hurt Dylan. "We need to move faster," I told Marcus. "They're talking about our son." Marcus nodded grimly. "I know. But we need James to implicate himself directly. Right now, he can still claim he was just texting with Thomas, that he knew nothing about the murders. So what do we do?" Marcus smiled, a cold, predatory smile I'd never seen on his face before. "We make him panic. We make him desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. Here's what we did. We created a fake email account and sent James a message that simply said, 'I know what you did. I have proof, and I'm coming for you.' No signature, no details, just enough to make him paranoid. Then we waited. The response was immediate. James called Thomas in a panic. We listened to the entire conversation through the phone Marcus had tapped. "Someone knows." James was practically screaming. "I got an email. Calm down. It's probably nothing. Someone fishing for information." "No, you don't understand. It was sent from Victoria's old email account, the one she used for personal correspondence." There was a long pause. "That's impossible," Thomas said. "She's dead." "Then how do you explain?" "Someone hacked her account. It happens all the time after people die. Scammers trying to—" "This isn't a scammer, Thomas. They said they have proof." "Proof of what?" "James, think about it. If someone had proof, they'd go to the police, not send you a vague email. This is someone trying to scare you." "Well, it's working." "Then maybe you should take a trip. Get out of town for a while. Let things cool down." "And leave the business? Leave the insurance money?" "No. No. We need to figure out who sent that email, and we need to silence them." There it was. The direct admission. The confession we needed. But we weren't done yet. Over the next 3 weeks, we haunted James Caldwell like actual ghosts. We sent more emails. We left notes on his car. We made calls where we'd say nothing but breathe. We moved things in his office. Small things, just enough to make him notice. We drove him to the edge of sanity. And then we watched as he fell apart. He started drinking heavily, making mistakes at work, snapping at employees. His wife left him, taking their kids, saying she couldn't handle his paranoia anymore. Thomas tried to keep him steady, but even Thomas was getting worried. We intercepted a text where Thomas said, "You need to pull yourself together. If you crack, we both go down." James's response, "I can't shake the feeling they're still alive, that they're watching me." Thomas, "That's impossible and you know it. I saw them fall. I heard their bodies hit the rocks. They're dead, James. Dead and gone." But James couldn't shake it. And that's when he made his fatal mistake. He went to our graves. There was a memorial site in the cemetery. Empty graves, since our bodies were never recovered, but a place for people to pay respects. James went there late at night, probably thinking he'd be alone. We were watching. He stood in front of our headstones, and he started talking. Confessing, really. Probably thought it would help him feel better, to unburden himself to 2 people who couldn't hear him. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice slurred from alcohol. "I'm sorry, Marcus. You were a good man, a good friend, but you were going to find out about the money, and I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't lose everything. The embezzlement started small, but it got bigger and bigger, and then I was in too deep. When Thomas came to me, said he'd take care of it, it seemed like the only way out. He pulled out a flask, took a long drink. I never wanted you dead, Victoria. You were always kind to me. But Marcus had to go. And you would have figured it out too. You were too smart, too good. both of you. And now you're gone, and I'm stuck here with the guilt. And the money doesn't even matter anymore because I can't sleep. I can't think. I keep seeing your faces." He was crying now. "If you can hear me somehow, if there's an afterlife and you're watching, I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. But I can't take it back. I can't undo it. All I can do is live with what I've done." Marcus and I were recording everything on our phones, hidden in the shadows behind a mausoleum 20 feet away. When James finally left, Marcus turned to me. "That's it. That's what we needed. A full confession, on camera, with GPS coordinates proving he was at our graves. So we go to the FBI now?" "Not yet. One more thing. We need Thomas to incriminate himself too, in his own words, independent of James. Right now, a good lawyer could argue Thomas was coerced, or that James was the mastermind and Thomas was just following orders. How do we get Thomas to confess?" Marcus thought for a moment, then smiled. "We use the one thing he can't resist: money. We make him think the insurance is about to pay out, but that there's a problem. We make him desperate enough to explain the entire scheme." So we did. Marcus created a fake identity, a claims investigator for the insurance company, and contacted Thomas, requesting a meeting to clear up a few final details before the payout. Thomas, smelling his $40 million, agreed immediately. The meeting was in a coffee shop. Thomas thought he was meeting an insurance investigator. What he didn't know was that the investigator was actually an undercover FBI agent, Marcus's contact, and that Marcus and I were sitting in a van outside, watching and listening through hidden cameras. The agent played his role perfectly. "Mr. Reed, thank you for meeting with me. I just have a few questions about the timeline of events at the resort." "Of course, whatever you need. You stated that you discovered Mr. and Mrs. Ashford were missing at approximately 8 a.m., but the resort staff indicate that you checked out of your cabin at 7:15 a.m. Can you explain the discrepancy?" Thomas barely hesitated. He was a good liar. "I misspoke in my initial statement. I meant I realized something was wrong at 8 a.m., but I'd actually gone looking for them earlier. I checked out because I thought they'd gone for an early hike, and I wanted to catch up with them." "I see. And you stated that you found their personal effects near the overlook, suggesting they'd fallen. But forensic analysis of the items shows that they were placed there, not dropped naturally. The arrangement was too neat, almost staged." I saw Thomas's jaw tighten. "I don't know what you mean. I found them there." The agent pulled out photographs. "Mr. Reed, we also have satellite imagery from that morning. It shows 3 people walking up to the overlook and only 1 person walking back down. The same 3 people are not visible anywhere else in the area after that time." "Can you explain that?" Thomas was starting to sweat. I don't know. Maybe the satellite missed them. They could have taken a different trail." "Mr. Reed, we also have audio recordings from a hidden camera in Mr. Ashford's jacket. The camera was damaged in the fall, but the audio kept transmitting for several hours. Would you like to hear what it recorded?" Thomas went pale. The agent pressed play. Thomas's own voice filled the coffee shop. "Did Dylan tell you what he found in my room 2 weeks ago? $40 million, Victoria. That kind of money changes everything. You're both going to jump together, holding hands, like a tragic suicide pact." Thomas stood up abruptly. "I want a lawyer. I'm not saying anything else." "That's your right, Mr. Reed. But I should inform you that you're currently under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, and about a dozen other charges." FBI agents appeared from all corners of the coffee shop. Thomas tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. As they handcuffed him, the agent said, "Oh, and one more thing. Mr. and Mrs. Ashford? They're not actually dead. They're watching this conversation right now. They survived the fall, and they've been building this case against you for the past 2 months." The look on Thomas's face was worth everything. The arrests happened simultaneously. While Thomas was being taken into custody, another FBI team was picking up James Caldwell at his office. Both men are now awaiting trial on multiple charges. The evidence against them is overwhelming. Recordings, emails, financial documents, confessions. Their lawyers have advised them to take plea deals, but both men are refusing, each trying to blame the other. Let them fight. Let them destroy each other. Marcus and I will be there at every court date, sitting in the front row, very much alive, watching them pay for what they tried to do. As for us, we're still recovering, physically and emotionally. The broken bones have healed, but the trauma runs deeper. The knowledge that someone we trusted, someone we welcomed into our family, tried to kill us for money. That's not something you get over quickly. But we're alive. Our son is safe. And we learned something important. We're stronger than we ever knew. The day after the arrests, we finally went home. Dylan was waiting for us. We'd kept him updated through secure channels, but he hadn't seen us in person since the day we died. He ran to us, nearly knocking us both over with the force of his hug, and we stood there in our driveway, the three of us, and we cried. Cried for the trauma, for the betrayal, for the 2 months we'd lost, but also from relief and joy and the sheer gratitude of being together again. That night, as Marcus and I lay in our own bed for the first time in months, I turned to him. What you said on that ledge, pretend we're dead, that was brilliant. But were you planning it all along, or was it just instinct? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I don't know. In that moment, falling through the air, I thought we were going to die. But when we hit that ledge, when I realized we'd survived, something clicked. I remembered something my father told me once. The best advantage in any fight is being underestimated. And I thought, what if they think we're dead? What if we let them believe they won? It gives us power they can't anticipate. Your father was a smart man. He was. I wish he were here to see this, to see that his son survived, that we fought back, that we won. I took his hand. He'd be proud of you. I'm proud of you. We did it together, Marcus said. You were fearless, Victoria. Climbing down that cliff, living in that cabin, stalking them for 2 months. You never once complained, never once wanted to give up. I couldn't give up. Not when our son's life was at stake. Not when justice needed to be served. We lay in silence for a while, and then Marcus said something that surprised me. You know what the worst part was? It wasn't the fall. It wasn't the pain, or the hiding, or the fear. It was realizing how completely we'd misjudged Thomas. How we'd brought evil into our home and called it family. How do we trust anyone ever again? I didn't have an answer for that. I still don't. But what I do know is this. We survived. We fought back. And we proved that even when someone tries to write your ending, you can still rewrite the story. Thomas Reed thought he was pushing us to our deaths. Instead, he pushed us into becoming something neither of us knew we could be. Survivors who refused to stay victims. Epilogue. 6 months later, the trials are ongoing. James Caldwell broke first, took a plea deal and testified against Thomas in exchange for a reduced sentence. He'll spend the next 20 years in prison for conspiracy to commit murder and embezzlement. Thomas is still fighting, but it's futile. The evidence is overwhelming. His own voice, his own words, his own crimes, all recorded, all documented, all undeniable. His lawyer is now just trying to keep him from getting life without parole. As for us, we're rebuilding. Marcus stepped down as CEO. He needed time to heal, to focus on family, to process everything we'd been through. He's doing consulting now, work now, on his own terms, with people he chooses carefully. I started a foundation, ironically, funded by the insurance money that Thomas and James tried to steal. We help victims of workplace betrayal and financial fraud. It's become my purpose, my way of turning our nightmare into something meaningful. Dylan is in therapy, processing the trauma of almost losing both parents and learning that someone he trusted was evil. But he's strong, resilient. He's talking about going to law school, says he wants to help people who've been betrayed like we were. We moved out of the Connecticut estate. Too many memories, too many ghosts. We're in a smaller place now, in Vermont. Ironically, not far from where we died. Something about being near the place where we fell and survived feels right. A reminder that we're stronger than anything that tried to break us. Security is different now. We're careful, vigilant, but we refuse to live in fear. We have a new security team, thoroughly vetted, rotated regularly, kept at a professional distance. We learned the hard way that inviting employees to become family is dangerous when you can't see what's in their hearts. But we're also learning to trust again, slowly, carefully. Last week, Marcus and I went back to that cliff. I wasn't sure I could do it, wasn't sure I wanted to face the place where we nearly died. But Marcus insisted. We need to reclaim it, he said. We can't let Thomas have that place in our memories. It's ours. not his. So we hiked up that trail, just the two of us, in broad daylight. When we reached the overlook, I felt my breath catch. I could see the ledge where we'd landed, that narrow strip of rock that had saved our lives. Marcus put his arm around me. You know what I think about when I see this place? What? I think about how strong you were. How you didn't scream when we hit that ledge, even though you were in agony. How you understood immediately what we needed to do. How you lay perfectly still while your wrist was broken and your body was screaming. You saved us that day as much as I did. Tears filled my eyes. I was terrified. So was I. But we did it anyway. That's what courage is. Being terrified and doing it anyway. We stood there for a long time, looking out at that view that Thomas thought would be the last thing we'd ever see. He was wrong about so many things, I said quietly. He thought we were soft, easy targets, rich people who'd never faced real hardship. He thought we'd just fall to our deaths, and that would be the end of the story. But he was wrong, Marcus said, because we're not just survivors, Victoria. We're fighters, and we wrote a different ending. I turned to look at my husband, this man I'd been married to for 18 years, who I thought I knew completely. The fall had changed him, changed us both. We were harder now, more cynical perhaps, but also more certain of what mattered. Do you ever regret it? I asked. The way we handled it? Playing dead, stalking them for 2 months, building the case ourselves instead of just going to the police immediately? Marcus considered this carefully. No, because if we'd gone to the police that first day, Thomas would have hired expensive lawyers. He'd have claimed the emails were taken out of context, that the insurance change was a clerical error, that he was being framed. James would have had plausible deniability. They might have both walked free, and we'd have spent the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders, wondering if they'd try again. And now? Now they're in cages where they belong, and they can't hurt anyone else. We stayed at that overlook for another hour, watching the sun begin to set over the mountains. The same view, but everything was different. We were different. As we turned to leave, Marcus paused and pulled something from his pocket. It was a small stone he'd picked up from the ledge that saved us. I've been carrying this with me, he said. A reminder that even when you're falling, even when death seems certain, sometimes there's a ledge, sometimes there's hope, sometimes you survive. He placed the stone carefully at the edge of the overlook, a small memorial to the people we'd been before the fall and the people we'd become after. We walked back down the trail hand in hand, and for the first time since that terrible day, I felt peace. People ask me sometimes if I'm angry at Thomas, if I hate him for what he did, for what he tried to do. The truth is more complicated than that. Yes, I'm angry. Yes, there's a part of me that will never forgive him for the betrayal, for the terror, for the 2 months of pain and hiding and planning, for the fact that my son had to grow up too fast, had to learn that people you love can want you dead. But more than anger, what I feel is pity. Thomas Reed had everything a person could want: a good job, a family that cared about him, respect, security. But it wasn't enough. He wanted more. He wanted money he hadn't earned, a life he hadn't built, success he didn't deserve. And in reaching for it, he lost everything. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. He'll die there, alone, with nothing but his regrets and the knowledge that his greed destroyed him. Meanwhile, we're alive. We're together. We're free. We won. Sometimes, late at night, I still have nightmares. I dream that we're falling again, that there's no ledge, that we hit the rocks and the water and everything goes dark. I wake up gasping, my heart pounding, reaching for Marcus to make sure he's real, that we're really here, that we really survived. And every time he's there, solid, real, alive. We're okay, he whispers. We made it. We're safe. And I believe him, because we did make it. Against all odds, against a man who was trained to kill, against a conspiracy that should have succeeded, we made it. The final trial date is set for next month, Thomas's last-ditch effort to avoid a life sentence. His lawyer is going to argue that he was coerced by James, that he was in over his head, that he never actually intended for us to die. It won't work. We have too much evidence, too many recordings, too many witnesses. But we'll be there anyway. Marcus, Dylan, and me, sitting in that courtroom, watching justice finally being served. And when the guilty verdict comes, and it will come, I'm going to look Thomas Reed in the eyes one last time. I'm going to let him see that we're alive, that we're whole, that we're unbroken. I'm going to let him see that he failed. Because that's the thing about people who try to destroy you. They only win if you let them. They only win if you stay down. They only win if their version of the story becomes the final version. But our story isn't over. It's not a tragedy. It's a testament. A testament to the strength you find when you're pushed to the absolute edge. To the love that keeps you fighting even when you want to give up. To the justice that comes, slowly but surely, when you refuse to let evil triumph. Thomas Reed pushed us off a cliff, but we didn't fall. We flew. And now we're here to tell the story. Marcus and I were interviewed by several news outlets after the story broke. Everyone wanted to know how we survived, how we built the case, how we stayed hidden for 2 months while the world thought we were dead. But the question I get asked most often is this: how do you move forward after something like that? How do you trust again? How do you not live in constant fear? My answer is always the same. You choose to. Every single day you wake up and you choose to live instead of just survive. You choose to trust, even though you've been betrayed. You choose to love, even though love made you vulnerable. You choose to hope, even though hope can be dangerous. Because the alternative, living in fear, trusting no one, closing yourself off from the world, that's not living. That's just existing. That's letting Thomas Reed win even though he's in prison. And I refuse to give him that power. Last week, something unexpected happened. I received a letter. From Thomas. My first instinct was to throw it away, unopened, but curiosity got the better of me. The letter was short. Mrs. Ashford, I know you have no reason to read this, let alone believe anything I say. I know that sorry doesn't begin to cover what I did. I know that there's no excuse, no explanation, no redemption for trying to murder you and your husband. But I need you to know something. Even if it doesn't matter, even if you never forgive me. I didn't start out evil. I didn't wake up one day and decide to become a killer. It happened slowly. Small compromises, small justifications, small steps down a dark path until I was so far gone I couldn't see the light anymore. The money became everything. It consumed me. It made me into someone I don't recognize when I look in the mirror. I betrayed a family that trusted me. I tried to take away a child's parents. I became a monster. And the worst part? I can't undo it. I can't take it back. I can't make it right. All I can do is spend the rest of my life knowing what I am and what I've lost. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that you were right. The money wasn't worth it. Nothing was worth what I gave up. I had everything that mattered, and I threw it away for something that, in the end, meant nothing at all. Thomas Reed. I showed the letter to Marcus. We sat together in silence for a long time. Do you believe him? I finally asked. Marcus shrugged. Does it matter? He's still going to prison. He still did what he did. Whether he's genuinely sorry or just sorry he got caught, it doesn't change anything. I think he means it, I said quietly. I think he really does regret it. And if he does that make you feel better? I thought about it. Did it make me feel better to know that Thomas was suffering? That he was eaten alive by guilt? That he'd destroyed his own life as thoroughly as he'd tried to destroy ours? No, I said finally. It doesn't make me feel better. It just makes me sad. Sad that he threw away everything. His integrity, his soul, his humanity, for money. Sad that greed can turn a decent person into a monster. Sad that this is how the story ended for him. Marcus put his arm around me. You're a better person than I am. All I feel is satisfaction that he's getting what he deserves. Maybe we're both right, I said. Maybe justice and mercy can coexist. He gets justice, prison, punishment, consequences. But he also gets mercy, the knowledge that we don't hate him, that we pity him more than we despise him, that we've moved on with our lives while he's stuck in his. I never wrote back to Thomas. There was nothing to say, but I kept the letter. Not as a trophy or a reminder of what he did, but as a reminder of what greed can do, of how easily a human being can lose their way. It's a cautionary tale I'll share with Dylan someday, when he's older and ready to understand the full complexity of what happened. Evil isn't always obvious. Sometimes it wears a friendly face. Sometimes it protects you for years before it tries to destroy you. Sometimes it's the person you trust most in the world. But good is stronger than evil. Love is stronger than greed. Truth is stronger than lies. And survivors are stronger than those who tried to break them. Today is October 3rd, exactly 1 year since the fall. Marcus, Dylan, and I are back at that overlook. This time, we're not alone. We brought our closest friends, the people who stood by us through everything, who kept our secrets, who helped us rebuild. We're having a celebration. A resurrection day, Dylan calls it. The day we came back from the dead. There's food, music, laughter. It's strange to celebrate in the place where we nearly died, but that's exactly why we're here. We're reclaiming this place. We're taking the memory of terror and pain and replacing it with joy and gratitude and life. As the sun begins to set, Marcus asks everyone to gather around. "A year ago today," he says, his voice strong and clear, "Victoria and I stood on this very spot, and someone we trusted tried to kill us. We fell. We should have died, but we didn't." He takes my hand. "We survived because of a narrow ledge, because of luck, because of each other, and because we refused to give up, even when giving up would have been easier." He looks around at our friends, our family, our son. Life is fragile. Trust is fragile. Safety is an illusion. But love, real love, the kind that faces death and says not today, that's eternal. That's unbreakable. That's what saved us. Dylan steps forward, holding a small memorial plaque. We'd had it made specially for this moment. It reads, "Here, Victoria and Marcus Ashford fell, but did not die. Here they learned that even in the darkest moment, even at the edge of the abyss, love survives, hope endures, and the human spirit refuses to be broken." October 3rd, the day we flew. We secure the plaque to a boulder near the overlook's edge, a permanent reminder that this place is ours now, a monument not to death, but to life. As the sun disappears behind the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and red and gold, I lean into Marcus and whisper, "Thank you." For what? For whispering, "Pretend we're dead," when we hit that ledge. For having the presence of mind to see the opportunity even in the terror. For being strong enough to survive and smart enough to plan our revenge. For being my partner in every sense of the word. Marcus kisses the top of my head. "We saved each other, Victoria. That's what partners do." We stand there, at the edge of the cliff that should have been our grave, surrounded by the people we love, and I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Complete peace. Thomas Reed tried to push us into the darkness. Instead, he pushed us into the light.